So I'm not surprised not too many people are coming. And we're going to go to once in June and July. We're just going to do one session, probably not one in August, and see where we are in September and October.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So there's just the three of us. And so, Omar, if you want to go first, Keith, you go second, I'll do something. And then if nobody else comes in, I'm going to call it tonight. Okay. All right. So, Omar.
Okay. So,
Okay.
do you hear me well?
We do.
Okay. So, let's tell you a story. So, once upon a long time ago, when the world was still young, there lived a king. And this king used to be one of the richest kings, one of the happiest king, one of the strongest king in this world, had everything that you can imagine. And this king had a friend, had a best friend in this world. And this best friend has a nickname. His nickname is It's Good. So one day, the king went to his garden and he had a dagger in his right hand and he tried to cut a bamboo. It was like this in Arabic. He would say, Bismillah, Bismillah, Rasulullah. And he was like this, 1, 2, and he cut his finger off. And he was shouted and shouted. And he was like very sad. And he was shouted and shouted. And all the doctors around the globe came to him. And I say, Your Majesty, what happened to you? I cut my finger off, I'm going to die. No, said the doctors, no, you are not going to die. Just cut your finger off, it's okay. And his best friend came and he asked him, what do you think about what happened to me? My best friend, what happened to me? Like, it's a tragic thing, I got my finger off. And his best friend remarked again, it's good. What? It's good. I cut my finger off and you say that it's good. You know, I'll put you into jail to rot. And this is what he did. He put him in the jail. It was alone. He was alone. No food, no water. It was dark for a long time. And the king felt a little bit of sadness, upset, furious. His best friend, he is in the jail. He cut his finger off, and he was known in the world as a king of 9 fingers. What? Do you know king of 9 fingers? And all the people laughed at him. One day, the king had an idea. He wanted to get all of these things outside of his mind, and he wanted to be a little bit calm and relaxed. He hired his horse, and he rode his horse, and he went in the forest. The first day, he got nothing. The second day, the third day, the fourth day, it was 7 days. And it was a bit of like hungry. He got nothing from the forest. And the 80th day, he saw a gazelle, and he chasing her, and he tried to chasing that gazelle and catching it. He did not pay attention, but he crossed from one land to another land. He crossed the barriers, and guess what happened? Big soldiers waiting for him, and he tied him. Hey, what are you doing in our land? No, I'm the king, and I'm allowed to be anywhere in the world that I want to be. I'm the 9 fingers king, if you don't believe me. No, you are not the king anymore in our land. You are a stranger, and you are bring you to our priest. Your priest. And he was very sad. They bring him to the priest, and the priest had a ritual. So if they found a stranger, off of his head. And this is what they try to do. They went, and there is like a ritual, and the music, and putting on the drums, then, and they are dancing and dancing around the campfire till there is a time for taking his head off. And there is a big man coming from the tribe, and he would like a red long red dress, and he had a big sword in his hand, like this, holding like this, and he give it another big man, and he said to him, in a count of a three, off of his head. He put his like sword like this near to his neck, and he was waiting for the sign from the priest. 1, 2, stop! Said the priest, and all the people stopped music and stopped drumming. What happened? Said everybody. And the priest said to them, no, this man could not be sacrificed to our Lord, to our God. Oh, forgive us, God. But why? Said people, this man is not complete. This man could not be sacrificed to our Lord. Look at his body, look at his fingers. He just had 9 fingers. Where's the 10th one? And the king smiled, and he kissed, and he said, Alhamdulillah. He kissed his finger that he's missed, and he said, Alhamdulillah, my life is saved. And he gave him all his things, his horse, and he bring him till he reaches prison the palace. And he went to his best friend, it's good. And he said, I'm really sorry, my best friend. I'm really sorry that I put you in a jail. No food, no water. It was bad conditions. All these things happened because of me. I'm sorry. And he said to him, what happened to you? And he said that that's the whole story that I said. He repeated to him. He said the story that I tell. And he said, okay, but for you, I want to put you in such situation like this in bad conditions. But he said, it's good. No, your majesty, you know, it's good. What? Said the majesty, his majesty. What? It's good. After all that I've done for you, said again and again, it's good. He said, no, your majesty, it's good. And I believe me that it's good. Because you were there and you have escaped because something missed in your body. If I were with you, I would never be escaped because I'm complete. I would be sacrificed. The king understood the message and he smiled and he said, yes, it's good. Yes, my best friend, it's good. It's good. And he gave him a hug and he asked for forgiveness, and they lived happily ever after till the end of their time. And this is the end of the story. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Omar.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lovely story, well told. And so, how many languages? I'm sure I've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you again. How many languages do you speak? You speak English, you speak French?
Yes, I speak like a little bit of French and Arabic and Tamazight and English. Like you can, and a little bit of Spanish. I'm learning Spanish.
Yeah, well, I do think it's one of the most difficult things to do is to tell a story in a second language of any kind that's not your mother tongue. And you do it very well.
Thank you so much, sir.
In English, you do it very well. And it's not so much learning the language, it's the diction, it's the pronunciation to make sure words are clear. And you do that very well.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
I'm sure Keith will say the same. So, thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you in England at some point.
Inshallah.
We'll see how we go. Inshallah. Right. Keith.
Yeah, well, thank you, Omar. Thank you for your version of that story that I'm familiar with. So thank you very much. Well, Lincolnshire is on the eastern side of the UK, a big county, second biggest county in the UK. And in the north of the county, many, many years ago, there lived an old man called Mr. Lacey. Now, he was a widower. His wife had died some time ago. He was getting very old, and he was a very rich man. But in those days, there was no rest homes. There was no homes for the elderly, and so he had to make arrangements for his old age. Now, he had 3 sons. Each of them had a family. And so he made an arrangement with the three sons and said that he would divide all his property and all his wealth in between the three sons, providing they looked after him in his old age. And the arrangement was that that he would go and stay with the three sons and their families a week at a time. So every 3 weeks they would go around and and stay with different families. Well, with the prospect of all this money and wealth, the three sons were so pleased. One son, well, he wanted to go and he wanted to buy a house. Another one wanted to extend his house. And another one wanted to buy a field, and they were looking forward to having so much more money. And so every 3 weeks, each of the sons took it in turn to look after and house the old man. And so he stayed with each family, but after a while, each of the sons and their families got really fed up with their dad staying with them. And initially, they looked after him very well. He would be sitting beside the fire, he'd got some good food and a good, nice, warm bed. But after a while, they got fed up and they found that he only got only smaller portions of food, and they didn't really want him to play with the children in the evening, and his bedroom was always untidy and cold. And so he was a sad dad, because each of his children, each of his sons and their families didn't look after him very well. What was he to do? And so he went one day to see a friend of his, a lawyer friend of his, and said, well, what can I do? Because, I promised my three sons a third of my wealth when I die, and they're supposed to look after me a week at a time, but they just treated me so mean. And the lawyer said, well, legally, there's nothing we can do, because they're not obliged to treat you well in exchange for the portion of the inheritance. And so Mr. Lacey was very, very sad. But his friend, the lawyer, said, well, you've been good to me, and I have an idea. And the lawyer went over to the corner of his office and he brought out a big chest, a big wooden chest that had a lock and there were straps of iron around it. And when he opened the chest, there was 1,000 gold coins. And the lawyer said to Mr. Lacey, he said, now take this chest, and when you go back and stay with each of your sons, go into your room and make a show, really, of counting out these gold coins. Just make a noise of clink, clink, clink as you count them. And so he did. And he went to each of the sons, their families in turn, and every night he would count out these gold coins. Now, after a little while, the sons got together and said, well, why has our father got all this chest of gold coins, and he counts them out every night? And Mr. Lacey took the chest after 3 weeks. He took the chest back to his lawyer friend and said, well, thank you very much, but now what shall I do? And he said, the lawyer said, well, this is what you do. Tell each of your sons that you've actually buried this treasure chest. And the son and the family that treats them the best will be able to have that treasure chest with all the 1,000 gold coins. And so that's what he did. Each son in turn, a family, he told them that the treasure chest was hidden away, and the son and the family that treated him the best would be able to have these 1,000 gold coins. Well, life changed, because as he went round, their 3 sons and their families, they treated him so well. He got the best cuts of meat, and his bedroom's always clean and tidy, and he's able to play with the children. And he just had a very happy retirement. Until one day he was very poorly. And he was laid in bed, and the doctor was there, and the 3 sons, they gathered round, eager to know which of the 3 sons would inherit this chest of gold. Well, the doctor needed paying for looking after the old man who was dying. And each of them was very keen on, well, I'll pay. And so each of them was keen. And then they looked at their father, who was lying there very, very pale, and saying, well, which one of us that will have this chest of gold? Which one of us will inherit it? But the old man, he just laid back in bed, and he just pulled a face and smiled, and he closed his eyes and said that there was no treasure. He smiled and pulled a face and closed his eyes and died. It just goes to show that you shouldn't try to trick a Lincolnshire man. That's the story of Mr. Lacey and his legacy.
All right, okay. Well, I'm certainly not going to go to Lincolnshire. I know you've all got web feet. That's what they say.
Yeah. Apparently Hugh Lupton tells a version of that story as well. So it's got, but I know it's a Lincolnshire story. So.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, Baba, I'm really pleased you're here, because I want to. In my local village hall, we're having a do next Saturday, because they need to raise a bit of money to buy a new kitchen, and so they're having a variety night, and everybody's got to do stuff, and I got asked to do something, but I'm going to go a bit more comedic, and I wanted to run this one past you because I want to know what you think of it. I'm pretty certain you've heard a version of it before, and tell me if you got any when it comes to the 3 questions. But you'll see how it goes, right? Because the thing about being an Englishman is that we've got the greatest of all folk heroes, right? So we've got Robin Hood, who robs from the rich and gives to the poor. And that was 700 odd years ago. What a fantastic chap he was. He's got a beautiful wife and his merry men in the green of Sherwood Forest. Now they've got Rob Roy up in Scotland, and he was a jolly good chap. And he went round and did what he needed to do. And over in Ireland, they got Finn McCall, who was a warrior and a knight, and he went round sorting out of all the bad people and all the other things. And the Welsh, well, they've got 2 or 3 different ones. But America itself, good old United States of America, hasn't really had a folk hero before. It's got Billy the Kid and 1 or 2 others, but it's not really a folk hero in that way. So, but they've got one now, and they're really pleased with themselves, because for the next 1,000 years, they're going to be talking about Donald Trump, the person who's come in and saved their nation, and he's robbed from the whole world, and he's given it to America, and he's the one they voted in all 9 swing states, and they've had him before. They must have known what they were having and everything else. And anyway, so he's down in Florida, and he decides to go and visit a local school. And so he brings up and he arranges. So he goes in to see what you would call, Barbara, a kindergarten school, which is the ones when the little children are 5, 6 years old. And he goes in there, and he's got J.D. Vance with him, and he's got all his gang. They all go in together, because he can't sit in the White House by himself. He's got to have all these people around him every time, just in case he says something stupid again. Anyway, so he goes down there, and he sits down. He does a bit of a speech and everything else. And he says, has anybody got any questions? And this little boy stands up and he goes, I've got it. And so Donald Trump goes, what's your name then? He said, my name's Henry. He said, how old are you, Henry? He said, I'm 5 years old. That's good. And what's your question? He says, I haven't got one question. I've got 3 questions. Oh, says Donald Trump, 3 questions. That's all right. And everybody's hanging around and all his advisors are coming in. He's got the head of the staff there and everything else. And they're all saying, do you think you'll be all right? He goes, he's 5 years old, should be able to cope with a 5-year-old's questions. What do you want to know? So the 5-year-old stands up and he says, what are you doing about all these tariffs? Everybody knows if you put tariffs on everything else that's coming in and going out of the States, the only people who are going to lose are going to be the people from the United States, and everything's going to go up. You promised to sort out the war in Ukraine in 1 day. That's 100 days ago since you've been the president, and nothing's happening much at all. And it doesn't look as if Vladimir Putin and you, well, anyway, you seem to have lost, don't you? And Donald Trump's going, what? And he goes, what are you doing down in Palestine? There's 2 million people starving down there, and you're not doing anything about it. Isn't it about time you did something down there? Anyways, Donald Trump's going, what? And all his advisors are going, what? Anyway, and the bell goes. And the bell goes, and it's what you call recess. It's what we call playtime. And all the kids, you know how the kids go out and they hold their hands and they go out and they're singing. And it's the most beautiful sound in the whole of the world is kids playing in the playground. Anyway, about 20 minutes later, all the kids come back in and they all sit down on the floor, and the headmistress turns around and goes, I've got a real treat for you children. Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, is come to visit with us. He's going to talk about himself for a few minutes, and he's going to do a Q&A. Isn't that nice? And in comes Donald Trump, and they've got all his people around him and everything else, and he sits down and he speaks for a few minutes, and he goes, has anybody got any questions? And this little girl stands up and she says, I've got some questions. And he goes, what's your name? She goes, my name's Sophie. I'm 6 years old. It was my birthday yesterday. Well, many happy returns, said Donald. She says, and what are your questions? He goes, I haven't got one question. I've got 5. And he goes, 5? And all his advisors are going, okay, it's all right. I'm sure I can cope with it. So what are your 5 questions? What are you doing with all these tariffs? All it means that the people in the United States are going to have to pay more for stuff. I thought you promised to get the war in Ukraine over in 1 day, and it's 100 days ago. What the hell do you think you're doing? There's 2 million people starving in the Gaza Strip. Isn't it about time you did something about that? Why did we have a recess 20 minutes early? And what have your goons done with my friend Henry?
I've heard that before in a different version, but yes.
Yes.
It would be
Right.
even funny if it weren't true.
Right. So when it comes to the 3 questions, that's the one that I first heard that in the 70s. And it was, I think they started telling about John Kennedy. I think that's when it came out, or Eisenhower. Dad used to tell a version of that. And you just updated each time.
Right,
so
right.
the three questions. So what's hitting home in the States at the moment? It's the tariffs, because that's all we hear over here, Ukraine and Gaza. Are they the 3 ones to talk about?
Well, those are probably the most universal ones to talk about. We're still dealing with the fact that he whose name will not be mentioned is making American citizens disappear without due process. You know, and that's a big concern because we had an American citizen sent to El Salvador's prison because of a clerical mistake that the president claims he's unable to undo, which isn't true. And the president in El Salvador, he's getting paid big cash, so he's saying he can't send them back. But
There's Americans disappearing, right? Okay,
right, without due process.
without due process. Okay,
Right. We have a president who doesn't know if he has to uphold the Constitution.
right. Okay.
Yeah, but those would be the 2 foremost. I mean, he actually went on an interview and they asked him about the Constitution. He said he doesn't know if he has to abide by it. I mean, it's the Constitution. And the third one,
Well, it's
the third one would be he is canceling programs that deal with. He has canceled funding for programs that deal with climate change. Now, I don't know how funny you can make those, but that's kind of what's going on right now.
So the last time I was telling it was a couple of years ago, and he just lost the election, and one of the questions was, why did you come out of the Paris Accord? Everybody knows that's just good people trying to make the planet a better place. That was one of the, and the other one, has he actually taken the solar panels off the White House, or weren't they there in the first place?
That I don't know. There's so much disinformation that comes out of his reality.
Yes.
You know, I mean, like he says, like he's defunding things like solar and wind power, but he's advertising that he's doing all of the above. There's so
Right.
much disinformation.
Anyway, I'll sort out something. I'll go do it Saturday, and I thought, because he's so disliked over here, isn't he, Keith? You know?
Yeah. He actually had a judge locked up for not agreeing with his policies.
Right. Well, there's an old saying that goes back to, I think it's around 1066. It's a long time anyway, where it says nobody is above the law, everybody is equal under the law.
Yeah, we allegedly have that, except for our Supreme Court unconstitutionally declared that the president is above the law when executing the powers of the presidency. There's nowhere in the Constitution that says that, but they made that decision. And it was a narrow decision.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good joke, and I thought
I like the joke.
Yeah.
I've heard versions of the joke before. I've even heard version of the joke with Donald Trump in the States. I like the joke. I'm glad you can tell it because you won't disappear.
Yeah. No, I can tell it. And the other one is it's about there's a guy who walks into a pub with a dog that plays the piano and a cat that does a little dance and sings a song. Right? And you go along and say, you've got to come to our festival and da 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 da. And he says no, and you go, why not? And he goes, well, it's the cat. She can't sing. The dog, he's a ventriloquist.
Now that's cute.
President Trump was giving a speech one day, and one of the guards that were sort of keeping an eye out for everybody, for security, and the guard saw a chap with a rifle and said in a loud voice, "Donald Duck!"
Oh, oh, Keith, go to your room. That's bad. That's a bad joke. That's a bad. I like that one. I won't tell it, but I like that one.
No, I don't know. That is a good one, actually. Yeah, fair enough.
So let me change the atmosphere a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to share a short story. It's going to be a shortened version because I had my cue cards. It's a story I'm relearning. But if I plug in my cue cards, I'll lose the Zoom. And if I blink out, don't worry, I'll be back quicker than before.
Okay.
This story deals with how the cheetah, why the cheetah's fur is stained, why there are teardrop markings on the cheetah. Hope I got the right animal. So, a long time ago, before Keith had his tea, or Baba C had his coffee, or Mike had his whatever it is that Mike has.
No, nothing.
Oh yeah, sure. Now, there was a cheetah, and cheetahs are known for their prowess and their hunting, and their ability to hide their capture, their prey until they're ready to eat it. And this particular cheetah had 3 cubs, not 1 cub, not 2 cubs, not 4 cubs, but 3 cubs. And the cheetah would go hunting, and it would hide the prey and then take bits and pieces back to where it hidden its cubs. Now, this is back during the day when a man's word was worth more than gold. And when people had just basic tendencies, it's like if you are a hunter, you use your own wits, your own weapons, your own tools, and you went hunting. You did not take another man's catch. You did not take another man's food. You worked, and you're supposed to be able to do it on your own. And if you needed help, you asked for it. Well, there was a very lazy hunter in this particular Kijiji, in this particular village, who liked to eat well, but he didn't want to go through all the trouble of hunting and then dragging and then skinning and then putting the meat up and then, trying to preserve it and all that kind of stuff. But he wanted to eat. Well, one day while he was sitting under a tree trying to figure out how to get food without actually hunting for it, he saw in the distance a cheetah dragging its prey to where it hid it and taking chunks of it to another area. So very carefully, he followed the cheetah and saw the cheetah feeding its cubs, who were still too young to hunt or defend themselves. And the very lazy hunter got an idea. So he waited, and the mother cheetah went down to the watering hole to get water. And while she was gone, the very lazy hunter grabbed the 3 cubs and took them back to his place. Now, his plan was to train the 3 cubs to go out and hunt for him and bring him back the meat so he could eat. Well, when Mother Cheetah got back to where she hid her cubs, of course, the cubs were not to be found. And she looked and looked, she sniffed and sniffed, she hunted and she hunted, but she could not find her cubs. So she returned to her lair, and as most mothers would do if their children were missing, she began to cry and cry and cry. Well, you get the picture. She cried, and as she cried, tears flowed down her eyes and onto her fur, streaking her fur with her mother's tears, and she just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. Another one of the hunters in the village thought it was peculiar that the cheetah had not been seen, and thought it was peculiar that one of his neighbors had not been seen either. And he went to the neighbor's home, and he looked through the window very carefully, and he saw the neighbor, the hunter, the lazy hunter, trying to train the little baby cubs to go hunting for him. And this was not right. They were not his cubs. And he was going to use the cubs to go get food for him, but he was supposed to get his food using his own prowess, his own tool, his own weapon, his own skills. And the neighbor thought, no, we can't have this. And so he brought the other villagers in on it, and they had a village meeting, and they thought that this hunter was a disgrace to the village, and a disgrace to hunters, and a disgrace to manhood. And his word was no more. They cast him from the village, and they very, very carefully took the cubs back to the lair where Mother Cheetah had cried herself to sleep yet again. When Mother Cheetah awakened and saw her babes, she was very, very happy. She stopped crying, but the damage had been done. Her tears, her mother's tears, had soaked her fur so long that to this day, her fur, the cheetah's fur, has the marking of the cheetah's tears. And as for the hunter, he was cast from the village, because you see, even to this day, a man is measured by his skills, by his talents, by his ability to take care of himself, and not to steal or take what does not belong to him. I tell this story because on Mother's Day, mothers are to be remembered, to be cherished, and to be celebrated. And though she was a cheetah, she was a mother, and she didn't cheat at all. Asante.
Well, Baba, you're like a good red wine. The older you get, the better you are.
Thank you. When do you guys celebrate Mother's Day? Or do you?
Oh, no, we have Mothering Sunday, is what we call it. And we had it, it's normally at the beginning of April.
So you leave the daughters out?
A Mothering Sunday we do, yeah. So everybody celebrates their mother. Okay,
All
it's
right.
called Mothering Sunday, and lots of I don't know if how Keith does it in his family. Lots of families will go and take their mother and they take them out for Sunday lunch.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do here.
Yeah,
Take mothers out to lunch, brunch, or dinner.
yeah,
And I haven't really celebrated Mother's Day since my mother became an ancestor. However, I did post things in our family chat wishing all the mothers, that's a double entendre, all the
yeah,
mothers in my family a happy Mother's Day.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
And then
but you know what? The mothers get the better deal because on Father's Day, what do we get? The kids come borrow money from us and buy us a tie. Ah,
well, normally you find a whole load of the travelling peoples. They come and nick the daffodils outside you from your garden. Then they sell them to you, so you can give your own daffodils to your own mother.
whoa, whoa. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to call it tonight, unless you fellas particularly want to do another story each. There's only three of us here.
Now I'm afraid that I might blink out at any moment. I don't know what the
Yeah.
problem is, but lately Zoom, but it's not just me. On Stories for Children, some of the other audiences were blink. I call it blinking. Were blinking out and coming back.
Right.
I've reset my Zoom. I've reinstalled my Zoom. I don't know what the issue is. I just say it's the tech imps being impish again. But
Well,
I'm glad
yeah.
I caught the latter part of Keith's story. I enjoyed your jokes about he whose name will not be said.
You
And
know what the problem? You know what the problem is, don't you, Baba? Because someone was listening to me tell that joke, and they said, "Well, we can't get Mike Rust in England, but we can get that Baba see." we have Cheltenham, so and that's our
yeah,
Secret Service guy. You've got the Pentagon, and they're all watching you. Okay.
yeah. Well, you know what? That is very believable these days. He's going, well, anyhow, I could go into
Yeah.
a whole thing. He's going after the media. He's pointing out specific people. But you know what? We will pass. We will get beyond this.
Yeah.
We have before. My community will get beyond this. We've dealt with less before. In fact,
Yeah.
just a little historical note, during the Great Depression, we weren't so depressed. Because we had our own businesses, our own banks, and I mean, I'm not saying it was easy on us, but we were able to muck through it because
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we were not allowed to have, when they crashed, it didn't affect us like that. But anyhow, yeah.
Yeah.
But listen,
No,
Keith,
well,
I
that's
enjoyed
right.
your story. Mike, I enjoyed yours.
Yeah.
And Waleed, thank you for flying the magic carpet.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Waleed. And I'm going to call it. You can have an early night, Waleed. And until we meet again, and Keith and I will meet at Whitby Folk Week. But I'm sure that I'm looking forward to being in your company again in Marrakesh.
Oh yes, I'm working on that now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, mate. You take care.
Take
So I'm
care.
going to
All
call
of you
it.
stay blessed.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Right.
Waleed. See out. Waleed, nobody else will ever get that. But anyhow, have a nice evening.